And you know what? Hopefully the Suicide Squad isn't garbage as well.
Yeah. I hope that's good.
What is death of the author, and is it good or bad? So death of the author simply means that once the author has completed the work, they have no influence over how it's to be understood or interpreted. It's a bit of a dramatic title for the idea that they are the author as a position of authority on the content, as in they could literally write whatever they wanted to have happen. As soon as it's done, they're dead. They're out. There's nothing more they can do.
Yeah.
And so we apply this. So say I said, you know, Greedo shot first is something that Lucas says after we see the original cut of the movie. We're like, no, he didn't.
Yes, I bet you have. Bet you have.
And then he's like, well, I made it, so he did.
I don't know. It's hard to say what fans take away, you know, from the films, and sometimes they see the films very differently than you do. I learned that when I added 7 frames to show the hand didn't just shoot somebody in cold blood.
And it's like, oh, that's nice, but no.
He didn't.
He didn't. And the extreme cases are when you have, say, a situation could go one of 3 ways, and it's all about interpretation, and then the author goes, oh, no, it was the second way. The other 2 are nonsense. Then someone could be like, oh, that's good enough for me. It was the second way. While a friend of yours could be like, fuck that. It's the way I think it was. It's not the way that they thought it was. And someone might consider this nonsense. They'd be like, how could you possibly think that you would know better than the author? And it's like, it's not really about that. It's that the author can sometimes, and this happens to literally everybody, they can misunderstand sometimes, or best understand, you know, all circumstances are possible, their own work. They could actually accidentally create a storyline that they didn't mean to, or a thematic sort of layer that they didn't mean to. And then if they say, that's not actually there, you're just seeing stuff that doesn't exist, that doesn't make it not exist.
The idea being that the sole bastion for, you know, legitimacy in terms of interpretation comes from the text itself.
Yeah.
The only place your legitimacy comes from.
Everyone's referencing J.K. Rowling. That's a good example. She's like, oh, this is this, this is this, this is this. Like, go away, J.K. Go away. Stop it. I guess she can rant in peace on Twitter.
I had somebody email me asking me for some writing advice. Because they were writing a story and they wanted advice on their outlining process, and I was saying, like, it all hinges on theme, and then they replied that they didn't want their movie to have a message. They didn't think that was important. So it's just like a sequence of stuff happens there's nothing really holding it together. And I'm just like, well, you should consider the likely possibility that an audience is going to watch your movie and extract the message from it, whether you intended for there to be one or not.
The Last Jedi is a story about men learning to trust women's ideas and decisions, and then becoming better people and better heroes because of it.
And they even suggest that when he's off meds, he's healthier and more coherent and more in control of himself. And it's like, what? So is the message nobody should be on meds? Are they always a negative? And why?
So you might as well put one in there and make it a decent one, you know, because that's what people do. I think they observe things, they see a pattern, and they extract from that.
Well,
on a broad level.
If I had a movie that had 6 significant payoffs and they all involve someone trying to step up against some kind of wrongdoing and they get punished, and you'd be like, what are you trying to say about, like, rebellions? Like, what are you trying to say about sort of courageous acts? Like, what is this movie? And I could be like, what do you mean? These are just stories I'm telling about stuff. I'm not trying to say anything overall. And it's like, well, people will read into it.
Right.
And I think it's worth keeping in mind, for sure. You don't have to do these things. And a lot of people can make their story, and a lot of people do. They're literally just like, no, it's why are you drawing all this stuff to do with political systems out of my? I think Zack Snyder's probably one of those people that probably doesn't realize a lot of the stuff that he's put into his films are very There's so many videos on YouTube that interpret his work hardcore, and I'm not even sure that he's aware, or if it was by design, but it's not very competently done. I don't even want to pretend to know, but yeah, it's an aspect of writing I find really interesting. And with care is a good idea, of course. Alderaan had its chance. I mean, this is the thing, when you watch Man of Steel, it wasn't Zack's intention, of course, but you start to piece together the character of Superman and his father and the actions he takes, and it all lines up in a way that's not supposed to line up. It's clearly not what Zack wanted. But there's so many references to, like, wow, he's psychopathic because of the things his dad told him when he was younger. And he has a very flawed understanding of, like, the sanctity of life, if you will. Just taking care of people, because he doesn't give a fuck. He'll toss Zod through a building. And when it's like, should I save people? Maybe, maybe not. It's like, oh my god, this is like a villain movie.
Right.
But of course, these were supposed to be interpreted in different ways. It was supposed to be Clark was being warned by his father that, you know, maybe be careful about what things you decide to do, because it can lead to... The meaningful choice was supposed to be Clark understands that it's going to cost him, but he will choose to do it because it's important.
A lot of time for me, Superman was always difficult. It was always difficult for me to understand the why. Like, why does he care? Like, you know, he can do whatever he wants. Why does he care? And I think this movie you were able to say, like, oh, of course he cares. His parents taught him to.
So to set that up, they have his dad tell him, like, maybe you should let children drown, which was so incompetent, it's unbelievable.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe.
Yeah.
What precisely were you thinking?
And then, of course, in the late game, we have him destroying what remains of the Kryptonian young in their earliest form of life, because he's decided they had their chance. Like, could you have chosen a more inept fucking thing for him to say before doing that? And so if you were like, no,
before murdering children, they had their chance at life.
Krypton had its chance!
Like, no, they didn't. And he could have said, "Star."
Sliced it.
Yeah, I don't know. The author in that case can keep telling you, no, that's not what that means. No, that's not what this character... And he's just like, bye-bye, get out of here. You're no longer in control of this because it's done. So that's Death of the Author. Whether or not it's good or bad, it is.
It is. That would be the main thing.
Doesn't really have a alignment. It can be brutal. It can be unfortunate for a lot of creators when they look at their work and they're like, oh shit, I didn't account for that. Oh, I didn't mean...